Cathy, are you ready to get this rolling?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, welcome to our Xero and QBO Shootout. I'm Amanda Aguillard. All right, I am joined today by my friend Cathy. She is one of the first QBO people I got to know pretty closely. Like me, she has an accounting practice, but she's also an expert trainer in QBO, and she's just a lot of fun to have on. So when I had this wild idea to do this head-to-head, she was the person I wanted to have on with me. So Cathy, welcome.
Welcome. Thank you. Thank you for having me. This is really an honor. And I think this is, just so awesome that we're able to show the two systems off. If you guys don't know me or I don't know, want to know more about me, I run a website, QBOchat.com, and a Facebook group, Build Your Best Bookkeeping Practice. I'm really focused on making sure that people that want to start a bookkeeping practice find a good fit for them and develop what is the best fit for them. So this goes with that. It doesn't have to be QBO. I started my practice with QBO. That's what I know, but that doesn't mean that it's the right or the only way. And so that's why this is so great to be able to share what we know, our knowledge with each other. So what about you, Amanda?
I adopted Xero very early on in my practice, like day one, and I've been Xero exclusive. So that's going back like 7 years, pretty much as long as Xero has been in the US. And because that's the only thing I've been using since, I've got a lot of history in it, and I want to share that with folks too. So, all right, let's talk about what we're going to talk. Let's talk about what we're going to talk about. The first thing is subscription pricing, and we're going to go through that pretty quickly, but we need to talk about the different levels available in each platform and which ones we have chosen to do our shootout with. We'll talk about bank transaction coding, so just coding bank lines, month-end bank reconciliation, and I know this is a hot topic.
That's the big one.
QBO versus Xero people, invoicing, reporting, and then also just general system differences that you and I have been talking about over the months. Yeah, there are QBO people who are showing up to learn more. I like it.
Learn more, yeah, and understand the differences because it's a huge one. So okay, so I am going to be using QuickBooks Online Plus as what I'm comparing Xero to in here. It is the most popular version or subscription of QuickBooks Online. As you can see here, the pricing starts, if you look at retail, $25 for Simple Start, $70 for Plus. Advanced is the newest addition to the lineup, and this is really more into its play to go into mid-market, so there's a lot more features in there, but still the most common subscription is Plus, so that's what I was going to go for. In Plus, there are limitations, like 5 users we have on there. You still have 2 free accountant users. Get a little confusing. 250 chart of account lines. If you need more, that's when you're going to have to upgrade. Same thing with the classes and locations. It's limited to 40. We do have project tracking in Plus, and when it comes to receipt capture, Intuit has their own new receipt capture feature, but I know I wanted to put that in there because of what you have, Amanda, on the next slide.
Sure. So for Xero, there are 3 business edition versions. There's early, which is $9, and this is actually going up by $2 each level in the next actually a week from today. So it'll be $11, growing will be $32, and established will be $62. Key considerations though are that Xero does not charge for additional users, so you have unlimited users, which means you can really leverage help from a lot of different places and get granular on permissions, and it doesn't cost you anything. There are no limits on chart of account lines in Xero, or the tracking categories or system limits. It's not like a usage limit, so you can get about 200 different category options. Our growing, the middle, most popular option does not include any product functionality that comes with the next level up, which is going to be the $62 subscription. But all 3 of these do now include HubDoc. So HubDoc is owned by Xero. It is a document management and processing tool. So those are included. All right, you ready to get into the meat?
Yes. Okay. So we're going to start first talking about transaction coding. And so in QBO, that is really the bank feeds in here. I am working in a sample company, so I'm going to get a lot of those little pop-ups of like, hey, have you ever used this feature? But so in QBO, we have these bank feeds. You connect the bank accounts. It pulls in all these transactions for us to be able to code, all this information in here, right? So for example, if I wanted to code this to a rental, this vendor isn't in here yet. So I'll add that vendor, right? And I want to do it to, come on. Let's do equipment rental. I picked something else last time when I was testing this all out. But what I want you to notice is that underneath here, it actually realized, okay, I'm doing a rental, it copied that information down here. So it tries to learn from how you're coding things. So that's one way of making things easier. We have this option to categorize. You can find a match or match up to a transaction that's already in QBO. We'll see some things down here. It's already matching, finds this check number and says, hey, do you want to go ahead and match this, right? So you have that option. If I had locations and classes turned on in this sample company, then we would have those fields where I could enter that information as well. I could split this out to 2 different accounts if I want to. So I have all of those options. Another thing I want to show you is that we can create bank rules in here to help automate this a little bit more. So I can say, hey, I want to do a bank rule for a rental. I want to say a rental, right? And move it all. So anytime there's money coming out of, I can even do all bank accounts, and the description has a rental on there, I could code that as an expense, and that would be the chart of account, equipment rental, the payee, and then I have an option to auto add these transactions into QBO, or if I just want to have the rule show up, I would turn that off and then do save. Now you see that I have this rule listed in here. Okay, so then I'm going through making sure I get everything I want to cover with you guys. Then if I go over to rules, you see I can create new rules. I can do all this. I can actually make a copy to this one, and let's go in and edit this first. And I want to add a description and say that the amount has to be greater than 1,000 or less than 1,000 there, and I'm going to put it to equipment rental, right? I can make a copy of it and say it needs to be greater than 1,000, and then I'm going to create a new fixed asset account, fixed expense, assets, other tools. So now I've set up these 2 rules where if anything comes in under my capitalization amount, it's going to go to the expense. If it's over, it'll code it to the asset account. So I have that. The other thing we can do is we can export rules and then come back and import them into other companies. So earlier I downloaded the file, and let's see if I can find it because, it's in my downloads folder. Probably need to clean this out. And when you come back in here, you'll see all the rules that I've copied, and then I can match it up to the payee, the expense, and this other information. So the big thing here is, if the names are a little different between different companies or something, you have this opportunity here to match all that up. So we could have like a whole listing of bank rules, export it out of one company and import it in, and then you have the opportunity to make sure all the mapping is correct there. So, and then the last thing we wanted to cover before we jump back over to Amanda was reclassify transactions. In here, if I want to come down and say, I have these transactions here and I didn't code them correctly, I can click this, reclassify, move it to just say job expenses. I'm like, where are you? And apply right there. So then it just moves it up. I can also reclassify classes and locations. Again, those aren't turned on in the sample company, but there are different ways that we can segment the financials and look at stuff. So we have those options in there. The one thing I will say is that you can't reclassify invoices. And that is because in our system in QBO, we code invoices to a product service. We don't code them directly to a chart of account. So we're not able to, in that reclassify area, say, I want to move it from, sales income to product income or something like that. I'd have to come in here, change the product service on these invoices so that it would get to the right chart of account on it. Now, if it had a class and a location, I could reclassify those, but again, I can't reclassify the chart of account on these invoices or sales receipts that I have. So I think that is that section, right, Amanda? So we're going to show yours now.
Yeah, we'll do the same, pretty much the same stuff in Xero. So let me get over to my Xero screen. Okay, so this is the Xero dashboard. We're going to go into our bank account to do coding. So the way Xero is set up is on this reconcile tab, there are bank transactions on the left, and then the matching of the GL or the creation of the GL account on the right, transaction on the right. I know that this, for folks coming from QBO to Xero, the idea that this is a reconciliation or this has a reconcile nomenclature to it is gets people upset. But I want you.
It's really. I was just gonna. Sorry, I'm gonna butt in. It's really the same concept. You're matching up a transaction to the bank statement. You're just not doing it like you're doing it at a transaction level, not the entire thing.
Right.
We kind of do. We're doing the same thing with the bank feed. It just comes down to the terminology.
Yeah. So like in Xero, there's an assumption that all the bank lines are coming in on the left. We're coding them and creating general ledger transactions in cash on the right, and then by clicking that OK button, we're matching them. That's a reconciliation. In QBO, right. It's just done later in the process, right?
Right. Or we have an extra. We have kind of an extra step, and we'll show that in reconciliations. What I call reconciliations, and the next segment of this. So you go ahead.
Yeah. So what we're doing on the left is we're taking all the bank lines, coding them or matching them to stuff that already exists on the GL. So if Xero recognizes that a dollar amount is exactly the same as something that already exists on the general ledger, like an invoice to be paid, a bill payment, a check, a spend or receive money, it's going to give us the green OK. So we just click the OK, and they are matched and cleared. If we want to code, we can code by just using the tile on the right, and we can add details link actually blows out this tile to a fully detailed tile. So if we need to do more than just put a contact, a coding, and a transaction description, we use this, and here we can allocate to different lines. We can add attachments. We can use tracking categories. So for folks who are not familiar with the difference between tracking categories and classes and locations in QBO, they're pretty much the same thing, meaning they're just tags that you can later go and sort or filter or find later. Xero lets you identify and call them what you want, so you get two tracking categories. QBO uses classes and locations, but basically it's the same thing.
So and I'll say QBO recently came out with tags, which is going to be a whole new another way to sort and look at it. But yes.
Yeah. So basically you just go in and code, and that's the coding piece of it for one at a time. Xero does have nice bulk coding, so cache coding. It takes reconcile and blows it out into a spreadsheet. I know that QBO doesn't really change the format of doing that, but it does allow you to code things all at once in the bank feed screen, right?
Yeah, I forgot to show that. We do have a filter option where I can like batch code things and do what you're about to show.
Yeah, so in Xero, we would take cache coding takes what's in this reconcile tab, puts it in a spreadsheet format so you can see it and manipulate it a little bit easier. We have these sorting headers, so we can sort and we can say, grab all these at one time and code them to align, and then click the button at the bottom and get bulk coding. So bank rules was another thing we looked at, right? So let's go create a bank rule for, so for bank rules, the fastest way to create a bank rule is from a transaction. So we would grab this create bank rule option. And this is similar to the screen that Cathy was showing for QBO, where you identify the criteria. So we can have, tons of options on how what data Xero is looking for to levy a bank rule. Payee contains, we can use any text field, so we can have, you guys know that different banks have payees that come across in different fields. So we can look for text fields in certain amounts and create these transactions. One thing that Xero can do that's pretty cool is that we can allocate a fixed value first. So I can say of this transaction, maybe I want to put the first certain dollar amount in one bucket and then the remainder somewhere else. Or I can allocate items in ratios. So if you have, like, I have two companies, my accounting practice and my training company. So there are certain overhead items that I allocate. So I create a bank rule and split them 50-50, and then those would get applied. Can you do that in QBOs, Cathy? Can you create a rule that allocates a fixed line to something first and then does the rest pro rata, like fixed dollars first, the remainder pro rata? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm almost 100% positive.
Okay. The only good use case I can come up with for that is something like LinkedIn, where you might have a subscription base, but then you are advertising on top of it, or headhunting or something. It's I've used it maybe definitely less than a dozen times, but it's out there.
Yeah, I just looked at it, yes, and I'll show that in a second too. And
then bulk recoding. Xero has find and recode, which is slick, really slick. This will make me sound like a Xero dork, but this was released in 2017. It was probably the best feature released in 2017. And it is a query and recoding function. So we can find and recode, we can add a condition, and the query conditions are like really hot, detailed. We can search on all these different data points. It's more, this is actually a more powerful search in Xero than the looking glass is. So if you're really trying to find something in Xero and it's not showing up for you and you know it's there, find and recode is, the find piece of find and recode by itself is pretty powerful. So we can search for an account is cost of goods sold chemicals, and you can put all kinds of parameters, date parameters around it, so you're not changing anything in prior periods. And I can come in here and say, well, if I want to, all this stuff that I just coded for Acme Chemical to cost of goods, maybe it's actually janitorial. I would get a good query. I'd go grab all the transactions by clicking the box at the top left and then recode the source transactions to another category. I can also recode as a manual journal entry, so it doesn't undo the original coding. It just makes an adjusting journal entry. So I can come in, recode all these 10 transactions, and it's as if they were coded correctly the first time. So should we wrap up? Should we wrap up bank transaction encoding?
Yeah.
Okay. So here's just a little grid of differences Cathy and I identified. It's in your handouts. As we mentioned, coding happens kind of the same way in both products. The automation, I'll give this to QBO. I like that auto add feature in bank rules. And I also like that the bank rules can be managed. Xero does not have very good management of bank rules. You can't, we can't copy, we can't export. So that's one in the QBO column, I think.
Okay. I'm one of those, like, I just, yeah, like, yes, I love my QBO, but I don't want it to be like, oh yeah, we're so much better or anything. So that's awesome that, we're going to find out our differences. I like that, you guys now have HubDoc included in there where, yes, we have receipt capture and everything. It's still new and it's different, but yeah. So what else was there? The bulk
I'll
holding.
say, I do think find and recode is probably a little bit better in our, I think
You can
Xero is a little
recode
bit.
invoices.
Oh yeah, you can recode spend and receive monies, invoices and bills and journal entries. So you can do all those in find and recode.
That was one of the questions. Yes, we can recode journal entries. Anything that in QBO that shows the actual chart of account on there, we can recode. It comes into back to what I was showing, the product service we couldn't do.
See, and that's, to me, that's just like clunky and cumbersome.
But then we can run reports off of product services, so it kind of groups them together. It's all these weird nuances.
Look, it comes from having I think this is my opinion, coming from having a product that's very heavy desktop, right, and trying to pull pieces out of it, and starting with that framework to go into the cloud. Okay, you're ready to move on because we have still a lot left to do, and we're already halfway through.
Oh God. Okay. Yes.
So month-end bank rec. Why don't you show us that in QBO?
Okay. Two things people wanted to see really quick beforehand. You mentioned the question about the rules, and yes, we can do splits out here. So I can do a percentage, I can do an amount, and that kind of thing in there. And then someone wanted to see the batch coding of stuff. So I have, like, I can click this stuff. I can sort by any of these fields in here, or I can put in, let's see if Bob's Burgers works. Yeah, so I could do that and then just select them all and then match them, or trying to see, these are hard examples in here because most of them are like matched up to something. But if I wanted to go ahead and just accept those, again, bad example because it's a received and a spend, so I can't really say it sees those kind of transactions as separate ones. But I could come in, change, all of them and be able to bulk stuff. Usually when I'm going back and like getting a whole bunch of transactions in to QBO from the beginning, I'll like come in here and say, okay, everything that's recognized, I'll just look at this, click it, and then accept and move them all in. So I can make my kind of list and dwindle down on everything. So that's how all that works. But we're going to talk about reconciliation. So what I'm going to do up here is go to the accountant tools. This is just a quick link to reconcile. There's about 500 different ways that you can get to the reconcile screen. So I know, that I think is also kind of a difference between QBO and Xero. Xero might be a little bit more straightforward on where you find stuff. QBO, you can get there a million different ways on a whole bunch of different things. So we're going to reconcile this checking account. Basically what I'm doing is saying, here's the ending balance from the bank statement and what the ending date was. So I'll start reconciling on here. And it gives me, okay, so you put in what the statement ending balance was. And so far you've cleared this much. What happens if I have transactions that went through the bank feed, they're automatically going to be cleared. So if you're running everything through the bank feed and working that well and managing that well, then this should take 2 seconds because all of this should be checked off and our difference should be 0 and we'll be good to go. That's not the case in this because I didn't go through all of that beforehand. But so I'm just going to select everything here. We have all of this, all these transactions, my difference is 0. And when I finish now, that is how I can get back and get to my reconciliation report. And that report is just going to show you, what was the statement balance, what's QBO's balance, what are the differences, what all did you clear. This is a static report that does not change. If you change any of the transactions in QBO, they don't get changed here on this report. So it is a snapshot of what happens right here. If I run into any issues on anything, I can, let me get to history by account. Again, sample company, it doesn't show me all the features. But if I were in a QuickBooks Online accountant thing, subscription, I would be able to undo the bank rec. So if there's something wrong with a bank rec, it's usually I take on a new client, they've done all these bank reconciliations, they've done weird wonky work, and I need to undo what they did just so I can start over and start fresh. Then I just do that. It doesn't get rid of the transactions when I undo them. It just makes them unreconciled, so then they're just cleared, and I go through that process again. So if everything works with the bank feed, it should just automatically check things off for you. So, but yeah, if you run into issues, you can undo it. The undo feature is just for accountant users. So normal users can't go in and just undo whatever they want on the bank reconciliations. So I think we're just doing reconciliations, right? So this is on to you, Amanda.
So just for those of the group that might be more familiar with with Xero than QBO, in QBO, every bank transaction kind of has like 3 levels of status, right? It's like,
Yeah, I can show you
yeah.
that. So when you were looking at the bank register, each transaction is either reconciled blank like this, cleared when it is matched up to a bank transaction, or again, reconciled. The issue is, one of the issues is I'm doing this myself. I'm manually making those changes here. So that could then mess up a bank reconciliation that I did before. Like I can say that everything was reconciled and I can come in here and just like change it around. And then you save, I'll get a warning that it was reconciled and I'm messing with that. But I can still just do that. And if I went back to reconcile again, I'll get like, hey, something happened, we'll help you fix it stuff. So that's the flexibility of QBO can be good and bad. Bad being you can run into making some of these problems and have to work on fixing them up.
Cool. So I'll show what Xero bank reconciliation looks like. So Xero's, to me, simpler. It basically cuts out one whole step that QBO requires, which here we are in coding, or what people would call coding, reconciliation. We are taking a bank line, we are matching it to what's already happened in the GL, or creating something on the GL, linking them together. To me, that's the reconciliation. And then that's it. So we do reconciliation here throughout the month. And then at the end of the month, we verify that all of our bank lines have come in. And the way we do that is by running a reconciliation report. So if I am running a reconciliation report and my statement balance matches this statement balance on the report matches the actual statement balance from the bank, I'm good, I'm done. I don't have to do anything else. I mean, right here we have people that our company is overdrawn, but besides that, like that's a separate problem. But if this is accurate for the bank, the credit cards, I'm done. I don't have to do any additional clicking and matching and coding something to another category. So I just, in our practice, we just publish this, which is to take a digital snapshot of it and put it in the file library in Xero, and we move on. I'll just show you an example of, this is a nice clean one where there are no outstanding payments or transactions or unreconciled lines. I'll show the group what it often looks like when you run it. And there are outstanding payments a lot of times because checks haven't cleared or deposits haven't cleared. And Xero does take any unreconciled lines and put it into this report. That way we can still tie to the balance. So even if we haven't finished the coding for the month, we'll still know if all of our transactions have been imported. So that's what we're doing. We're operating under the assumption that the bank feed is good and solid. That's going to be our balance, and then we go look for the outliers where I feel like QBO is you have to confirm a couple of times that everything has come in. So just a different way of doing it. And look, I know that there are a lot of people out there who love that they can take a bank statement number and put it into the system, and it calculates the difference. But
yeah, that was the difference here. Is like you don't see you don't have anything that shows you that there's a difference or that what the difference amount is, but we're going through the same check at the end of the day. So, and you can't, like if I made a change to a transaction that was linked, so if I changed a dollar amount that was linked to a bank account, I can save that. So I could, the bank said it was $5. I can go in and change that transaction to $10 for whatever reason that I want to, right? And it's still linked to that $5 bank fee thing. Now, but you can't do that in Xero, right?
So when you say change the amount, what do you mean?
If I go back into the original, like I think in your mind, the general ledger transaction.
Yeah.
And you make
I can go and make a change, but it's going to note that it's been manually changed. If it's coming through a bank transaction, it shouldn't be changed, right? So if my feed's working, it shouldn't be changed. But if there is an error, you can go and delete it or update it. I did see a question about the Xero balance, and the statement balance is calculated. So Charlie, this is your question on the bank reconciliation report. The statement balance down at the bottom here is calculated. So that's why you need to make sure that the calculated balance ties to the statement balance from the bank. And guys, we're getting so many questions. Like we're probably getting 1 in 10 that we're answering. So we might have to do part 2 of this, Cathy. Okay, let's get over to our little summary statement. Differences between the bank reconciliation process. In Xero, we do it throughout the month. QBO is
month end.
Process at month end. Yeah.
Right.
You can, because of the difference. I mean, these next 3 things I think are just built on that difference. It's just a different way to do it.
Right. I mean, again, I think, I just want to, for all the QBO people, it'd be like Xero can't reconcile or you don't have the reconciliation. You do. It's just a different method. I mean, we get to the same end result.
Yeah. Well, the end result is
the books are good.
Out of your bank. Like that's the end result.
The books are good. We get a reconciliation report if you need it for whatever reason. And yeah, it's done.
So let's talk invoicing.
Yes, ma'am.
Show me invoicing in QBO, Cathy.
Okay. Back to making me do my screen. Okay. So we're going to go into invoicing and I'm going to show you one example in here. So, I mean, this is the invoicing screen. It looks a little bit more like if the good old days when you had like the printout form from Office Depot or whatever, invoices is kind of all done out like that for you here. Again, I made the point earlier, we code to product services. If I did a new product service and say pick service, that on the service area is where I say what revenue account something goes to. So I can make changes later and it will bulk change all of the invoices, but that would be the way to change it. You can't. So all rock fountains go to a certain code. So if I want to change that, it's going to happen to all of them that have rock fountain on it. Just be aware of that. Over here, I can customize. I have custom fields that I can put in here. I have up to 3. So you see crew number is on there. Those are the sorts of things that'll show up on the invoice itself if you want. And we have a fair amount of customization of how the invoice looks. So there's some pre-built, fanciness that we can move around, change colors. If I had a logo that I uploaded in here, it would kind of recognize that logo and give you color scheme around that. Getting into the meat of it, I can get rid of certain columns, whatever you need to make it make sense for your client. We have an option to show your account summary on the top. So if you had a balance before, you see the new charges and total amount due off of that. I can set up defaults for what an email would be. So I can send out emails to clients with this, give them a payment link to be able to pay the invoice directly through there. There's a reminder email template. So I have all these templates available in here. I'll come back into my invoice screen. So I'm not able to show you within here about doing the payments on stuff. It would be little check boxes and say I can request or allow for credit card payment or allow ACH payments. But I can show you over here. Let's see. And now I'm really messing with myself. I had to do this a little bit more. Okay. Ah! I'm telling you, I'll learn how to use QBO one day, or my screen one day. Okay, I'm trying to show you the invoice. Let's see. Does this have it? Nope. Dang it, guys. Don't laugh at me too much, Amanda. Here we go. Got it. Okay, this is the email that I would get. So it just comes in, say, hey, you have this amount. I can attach the PDF of it to the email, and then you can come in here, pay the invoice. This is connected to QBO. QBO has their own payment system. So it automatically will record the payments in QBO if they're made through this system. It's all matched up and it'll make the bank feed and everything work nice. I can change the amount that I want to pay. You can do a transfer, credit card, debit card on here. I can view the invoice if I want. So I have all of these nice little fancy options in here on making those payments. Then I wanted to show you also, I got escape out of here. And we can do progress invoicing. Now this is something I do have to turn on the setting in the accountant settings area here. So once you turn on progress invoicing, I don't think you can really turn it back off, but progress invoicing comes out of the estimate feature. So if I come in here, create a new estimate for, say, Diego right here, and I'm going to do design, say 100 hours, right? I'll do save on that, right? Then I can come in here, create an invoice off of this estimate. So say I want to invoice 50% of the line. I'll go in, create that invoice right here. Say, okay, didn't really want to do 50, I'll do 25. Okay, and I'll save this. Once I save it, down here it shows me a summary of what's going on with this estimate and how much I've invoiced. So I can go back to the estimate. Now the estimate's showing me, hey, you've invoiced $18.75. I have a remaining of $56.25 off of this, right? So let me go ahead, create that second invoice right here if I want. Remaining total, create the invoice. I have it all done. I'd save and send it. Again, I have my little summary down here. If I went back to that original estimate again, now it's showing as closed. So I've invoiced all of that. You have the ability to, like I showed you, if I want to do 50% and then I change my mind to say 25% or a different dollar amount, I can do all of that. There's also reporting in QBO where you can see progress invoicing and how much has been invoiced off of it, so I can run those sorts of reports if I want to. So that's how all of that works for you.
My turn?
So, yeah, it's on to you.
All right. So let me show the fine folks online how we do invoicing in Xero. So I'm going to make myself presenter.
Yes, and back to the flipping back and forth is very difficult, guys.
It's a lot of stuff. Okay. So Xero's invoicing is similar in the look. We're putting in, all the same fields, due dates, dates. This is the new version of invoicing in Xero. I don't know if anybody is actively using that. I still prefer the classic version, so that's what I'm going to show. Different fields. I will say that I don't really like the idea that you've got to you're coding your invoices to products or services instead of a GL account. That's kind of wonky to me.
I think Xero, it comes in to really help when you're doing inventory.
Yeah.
So you can track the amounts and stuff, and that all, yeah, it's just a whole different layer.
Yeah, so I think Xero is the opposite. So Xero does have has limited inventory capabilities, and honestly, it's really just a you would create an item that represents either an actual inventory item or a service, and it becomes like a keystroke shortcut. So like I can type in this and it all gets populated, all these fields get populated and the GL's account is picked, or I can just come in and code something to a GL account directly. So that's a little bit different. So it's kind of almost backwards, not backwards, but opposite.
Yeah, that freaks me out, not having a product service. Just because I'm used to it.
Yeah, so that's one difference, is that those are back or opposite, I guess. We do have electronic payments available in Xero via third-party apps. So Stripe is the preferred provider for credit card payments, Go Cardless for ACH, but you can use other platforms and have those URLs plugged into your invoices. Custom invoicing is done like it looks like QBO. You can do a lot of customization in the product with invoices. Xero, you cannot do it really in the product. What you do is you create a Word template with fields and then pull that in and have those mapped out. And then I will say that QBO wins on progress invoicing for sure. That is one thing that lots of people ask for, partial invoicing. It is available in Xero projects. So at the next level of subscription, kind of the same thing where you build a project with an estimate and then you can invoice for part of it. So that's a little bit of a difference, but sounds like pretty much the same, right?
Yep.
Okay, let's get on to let's wrap it up. I think we kind of did wrap it up and you guys can see this in here, but let's get on to reporting because we only have 7 minutes left. So,
okay.
Talk to me about reporting in QBO.
I'm going to do it really, really, really quick, as long as it doesn't take me 5 hours to change my screen. Okay. So going over to the biggest thing that you want to know about reporting in QBO is that it's all main financial statements are done off of the chart of accounts, and it's sorted alphabetically unless you're using chart of account numbers. Then you can use the numbering system, so chronologically at that point. We do have sub-accounts, which we can then collapse on our financial statements. So if I show you the profit and loss really quick, you can see that I have sub-accounts listed in here. That'll help the sorting a little bit, and I can collapse them on reports, that sort of stuff. We have plenty of customization where I can run a prior period, the percent change, or dollar change on that. And the other thing I wanted to show really quick was management reports we can do. It's kind of our just like creating templates of making little pretty reports, just makes them a little bit more pretty. We can add a table of contents and some notes to things. And you can customize those, but you can't change them. You can't copy and move them over to different clients. Like Xero can. So you want to show us those, Amanda?
Yes. So I know I've called out a couple of things I think that QBO does better, but to me, Xero does reporting way better.
Well, I think there's far more flexibility.
Yeah. So in an organization, in a file, I can go into any of the major reports and completely customize them. So it's my screenshot. Yeah. So I would just go to this edit layout. So here's just an income statement, edit layout. The default under each section of the income statement would be alphabetical order for by GL title, but all I have to do to move them around is drag and drop.
Right.
So I just have to drag and drop, and I can do that. I can add columns. So if I want to compare different periods or drop in budget amounts and then formulas, so I can do a budget line, I can do a variance on those actual to budget by using the formula column. I can have Xero calculate percentages of things for me. I can do location as my tracking category, so I can have columns for different tracking categories. So there's a lot of customization. Key difference between Xero and QBO is that Xero does not have sub-accounts. Every line on the general ledger is equally weighted. So nothing rolls up automatically. However, on reports, it is very easy to summarize general ledger lines. So we do that on reports by going to adding we would add a row and maybe call this employee expenses, and then take that row, drag it and drop it down here, and then drop our employee expenses underneath. So we just go grab them. Payroll tax expenses, just grab these for now to show you. And if I leave this open, it's gonna show up in the income statement as a header with details. But if I close it, it looks exactly like a general ledger line. So it's the same effect as having sub accounts rolling up into a big account. And it's probably not showing because there's no data in there, but you can trust me.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. I think the reporting standalone is much more customizable than QBO, but this is so cool. Xero has at its firm level, so Xero HQ is the firm level platform. We can create report templates across our practice and then use them down in the different organizations in Xero. And we just go to report templates, and you'll see Xero has pre-populated a bunch of these for us. So compilation report is one of them. They're actually report packs. It's not just one report, but it's a
like our management report. Yeah, it's the whole thing.
Yep. Okay.
Nice.
Oh, I knew we were going to be talking about
another full question.
These are key differences. You want to go through these, see some of the things that are.
Yeah. So one of the big ones was contacts. You guys have contacts. We have different lists. So we have a customer list, a vendor list, an employee list. You can't have a name, the same name on one of those lists. So if I have a customer that's a vendor, I have to name it whatever the name is, -V, or do whatever so that I can have those two things. We can do journal entries to anything and everything we want, AR, AP, anything, and we just, we say what customer or vendor it is, and it's ready to go. I can do like 500 different customers, AR, and so we have tons of flexibility there.
Yeah, so in Xero, you cannot do journal entries to cash, AR, or AP as a journal entry. And to make an adjustment to a bank or credit card account, you guys, you go to spend or receive money. That is a journal entry where one half of the entry is a bank or credit card account. And then AR, AP, Xero locks it down and requires that the subtotal of all the invoices or bills must add up to the general ledger account. So if you want to change the general ledger account, you have to change something underneath.
Yeah.
All right.
Ours just show up. The aging still works. It's just difference.
I do want Cathy to have a chance to just tell us how we can learn more about QBO in the new year.
Yes. So I just launched a new course, Kickstart Your Bookkeeping Practice with QuickBooks Online. So if you have experience as an accountant and bookkeeper, want to build a bookkeeping practice with QuickBooks Online, not sure how to get started, not sure how to create services and use QBO to the best of all of its abilities, this is the course for you. Registration is open now. You just go to qbochat.com/kickstart. Yeah, and also if you guys are on Facebook, join my Facebook group, Build Your Best Bookkeeping Practice.
Yep, and I've got one for Xero. Now Cathy's got like 4,300 people in hers. I have like 100. So please, okay. If you don't even like Xero, just join, please.
Well, mine isn't just QBO. We do ask a lot of QBO questions, but mine's for, you know, everyone. But yeah, definitely join. Yours is new. Mine's been around for a couple of years.
Yeah, mine's a couple weeks old. But still, come join, please.
Yes, please.
Send your kids, like just so it's not so sad with 100 people.
It's not sad.
This was awesome. Thank you so much for joining me. It was great to have you on. I hope everybody has a great rest of the week. Again, we will try to get to these questions offline and maybe
500 questions.
Round 2. Maybe have to do round 2.
We're gonna have to answer these in another one. Thank you so much for having me, Amanda. It's been awesome.
Good to see you. Take care, everybody.
Bye, y'all.